there are some excellent possibilities as we make a evaluation. Our Commerce Minister himself has taken charge of the Bangladesh Airlines, which
Right.
and the aviation, so in order to introduce the direct flights as soon as possible. It would cost us around 30,000 taka, which is around 60,000 Pakistani rupees, because there is also a speculation that it's in fact India which has requested the United States to help normalize ties with Pakistan. And it was
Right.
very nice to watch that the Field Marshal from Pakistan was also there.
Right.
China normally shares, when it shares its defense equipment, it normally wouldn't give the very best of it to the countries to whom it sells. The only exception is Pakistan. That
Right.
China exactly, especially after the recent success, to say that, well, now the real affair is going on where President Putin, the Chinese president, Pakistan's Field Marshal.
Assalamu alaikum and a very good evening to everybody from Pak-Bangla Connect. And today we have with us again Professor Shahiduzzaman, a very big name from Dhaka University, somebody who is very vocal about Pakistan and Bangladesh and is very eager for the cooperation. Why he's eager, we all know that, because he has seen the days and years that many of us haven't. So there is a lot to learn from him. Professor Shahiduzzaman and I am going to talk about a couple of things. Most importantly, the recent visit of Pakistan's foreign minister to Bangladesh, and of course, how things are happening, developing, what's the temperature in Bangladesh, things like that. But before
Yeah.
that, I would request, sir, that if you can say a few words in Bengali and tell
Mhm.
our viewers about what the conversation is about today.
Okay, thank you. So maybe let me just utter a few words in Bengali, as you have said, requested. What I'm trying to say is that in বাংলা আমি দর্শকদের বলছি যে আমরা আজকে বাংলাদেশ পাকিস্তানের সম্পর্কের উন্মেষ ঘটছে কতখানি সেটা নিয়ে কিছু মূল্যায়ন করব। এবং যেহেতু পাকিস্তানের পররাষ্ট্রমন্ত্রী ঢাকায় ঘুরে গিয়েছেন, তার সফরের পরে কি ধরনের সম্পর্কের নতুনত্ব আসছে, কতখানি বিকাশ লাভ করবে আগামী দিনগুলোয়, কি কি ধরনের হার্ডলস এখনো রয়েছে, সেগুলো নিয়ে মোটামুটি আলোচনা করব। আশা করি আমার ইংরেজি আপনাদের বোধগম্য হবে, এবং যদি না হয়ে থাকে তাহলে আমার মনে হয় মোটামুটি আপনি এখন এই যে এতক্ষণ যে ধারণাগুলো দিলাম সেটার ভিত্তিতেই আমার আলোচনাগুলো আপনারা ধরে নিতে চেষ্টা করবেন।
Right. Thank
So
you. So Bengali is a very sweet language, even when I listen to it. I really feel like, the mystery joy is there. I feel I enjoy. So getting back to the serious conversation, Professor Shahiduzzaman, first and very important question, because we discussed about Pakistan and Bangladesh's ties, and we discussed about India's role in the region. But today I would want you to focus on the visit of Pakistan's foreign minister to Bangladesh. How was it, in your opinion, in the critiques' opinion from Bangladesh? You must have seen a lot of people giving opinion about what's happening. And how do you see it's developing in the future, sir?
thank you so much. Well, when I talked to you the last time, if you recollect, I did mention the sequence of events that took place in the 2 days when your foreign minister was in Dhaka. Now that almost 2 weeks have passed by, well, there are some excellent possibilities as we make a evaluation, and we found out, and I had found out that one aspect of it, which I must confess, is that although there was some low profile approach given in terms of the ceremonial aspect of it, I was told that it was done deliberately with the consent of both parties in order to ensure that it doesn't give wrong signals to our big neighbor. The big neighbor near Bangladesh is always eager to project it beyond the reality and to make it difficult for our two countries to work together. So I was told that what really mattered was to have those agreements signed, to take real concrete steps. And the
Mm-hmm.
foreign minister, it is repeatedly, it's been, his visit is being portrayed in our media, different private channels. He's meeting the political leaders, he's meeting Begum Khaleda Jia, and then the Jamaat leaders, and then the signing of all those agreements. All of these have been shown every other day in one or other channel to
Mm-hmm.
emphasize the proximity of relations. I must say,
Mm-hmm.
add here that, for example, just before you decided to screen today's session, I was watching a television discussion where last night Pakistan's newly arrived ambassador, High
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner, who is
Mm-hmm.
known to be a very senior, excellent diplomat and who had just served in Myanmar before
Mm-hmm.
arriving here, he went over to meet the political leaders of the most powerful political party who are sort of expected to win the next elections
Mm-hmm.
I mean the BNP. So
Right.
just last evening, he was there in the BNP office, and it appeared to be a very cordial session. The
Okay.
senior most BNP leaders were sitting, and this was his first meeting, getting together, getting to know
Okay.
after becoming the new High Commissioner. And then,
Okay.
of course, there are other most interesting developments. Is I was told that the new High Commissioner also visited one of our civil society groups,
Okay.
senior businessmen, and
Right.
I was told that the excellent possibilities are emerging.
Okay.
One of the best things I heard him say was that our commerce minister himself has taken charge of the Bangladesh Airlines, which
Right.
and the aviation, so in order to introduce the direct flights as soon as possible. And I
Okay.
was told that our High Commissioner Sab from Pakistan has assured the delegation that the return flights could even be even lesser than the Bangladesh Dhaka Bangkok flights, which is
Okay.
fantastic.
Lovely.
Right now, going through Dubai, return trip costs over a lakh
Okay.
Bangladeshi taka and over
Taka.
2 lakhs Pakistani rupees. But
Right.
once we have the direct flights, they're working on it, and I've been told that that it would cost us around 30,000 taka, which is around 60,000 Pakistani rupees,
That's a
which is
huge
very,
difference.
that is very reasonable. And if this is done, and already the gentleman with whom your High Commissioner had this meeting felt so nostalgic and very excited to tell me that, Professor Saab, we are going to even introduce a system like 10-day visa-free travel. These are all
Wow.
on the cards. On
Wow.
arrival, visa is there, and then the entire tourist aspect of it. So, and then I pointed out, I was asking, wondering that what is the real impediment that it's not getting introduced? The real
Right.
impediment is, of course, Indian objections that they won't allow Pakistani overflights. So
Okay.
now this is being tackled. I was told that the US has sort of put some pressure on the Indians. And I
Okay.
pointed out the American
Mm-hmm.
government, because President Trump is interested to see normalization of relations between India and Pakistan.
Right.
President Trump is interested to deal with the Kashmir question, for example. He has said it. And
Right.
the Americans would like to see that although Indians have fallen apart from the US on the question of tariff, there are
Right.
there are efforts going on to recreate the wasted out relationship. And one way of doing it, as the Americans are trying, is to persuade the Indians to patch up ties with Pakistan,
Right.
and there is also a speculation that it's in fact India which has requested the United States to help normalize ties with Pakistan. I don't
Right.
know how much it is true, but there
Mm-hmm.
must be some basis to it because this has come from very reliable sources. So
Right.
it's quite possible that India will grant overflights rights, and then
Right.
maybe within a month we will be able to have travel. Another aspect of the foreign minister's visit, I must tell you that right now, I think it's from today, that in
Mm-hmm.
Dhaka, one of the largest conference center in the suburbs. It's really beautifully located. It's called Boshundhara Convention Center, which is in the
Right.
outskirts of the city, about 15 kilometers out. There is this
Right.
there is this Pakistan consortium exposure
Okay.
exhibition which has started, and it's going to last for a week. And I saw the list of whatever the every important aspect of Pakistan's economy,
Mm-hmm.
involving industrial products, textile products,
Mm-hmm.
clothes, jewelry, tourism, defense cooperation, you name it. Everything is on
Right.
the list. So
Right.
I think this is going to start, and I'm pretty fascinated by the fact that although air travel hasn't been introduced, this is taking place through the use of shipping lines,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I'll have to tell you that one of the most popular Pakistani products in Bangladesh is wooden work,
Right.
the very delicate woodwork that is done,
Mm-hmm.
Pakistani furniture and all
Mm-hmm.
sorts of, the use of the very high quality wood. That
Mm-hmm.
is very popular among the middle class in Dhaka. And
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine that there is going to be a very sound, start of economic interaction.
Right.
I guess
So,
we are
mhm.
on to a very dynamic process, and there's a lot of
There's a
goodwill
lot.
also.
There's a lot of goodwill. There's a lot happening, and we're on the right track. I personally am very happy if it becomes this cheap as 60,000 rupees to travel to Dhaka. I'm so looking forward to have the mishti doi and the street food and roam around and speak to you and have a
Yeah.
conversation with many of the intellectuals there because there is a lot to learn. So
Mm.
that's the aspect that you're very happy about, and of course genuinely many of the people from Pakistan and Bangladesh will be happy about that. If there are people who are coming here with 10 days visa free travel, it's something very very interesting. But you've mentioned that there is a possible thing that India does not want. So now India does not want, but simultaneously India is giving in the pressure that is coming from global power. So how do you see? Do you see a positive outcome of this?
Yeah, I'm sure. I'd like to have a word about this recent international experience, the SCO. Of course, I don't have much details of what
Mm-hmm.
really went on behind the doors, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you are aware as much as I that first it was the Indian Prime Minister who went to Beijing and joined
Mm-hmm.
the SCO.
Mm-hmm.
Pakistan was already there, and
Mm-hmm.
there were no meetings between India and Pakistan.
Mm-hmm.
The Indian Prime Minister was more involved with trying to win China's trust,
Right.
and seemed to do a lot of hobnobbing with President Putin also.
Mm-hmm.
But the
Right.
interesting fact is that he wasn't there long enough to attend the ceremonial parade, the
Right.
military parade that occurred in
Right.
Beijing, which was sort of attended by as many, as I found out today, there are as many as 22 heads of government, including those
Right.
from the Central Asian republics. And it was
Right.
very nice to watch that the Field Marshal from Pakistan was also there. And he was
Mm-hmm.
there, he sat down, and China had a brilliant display of its missiles. There was some
Yes.
discussion by an Indian defense expert who's very
Mm-hmm.
cautious. The only one I was watching on the video YouTube, the only one, his name starts with a S, I think, Soren, or he's been extremely critical of Indian defense postures against Pakistan. The only person who has recommended that India should stop its saber rattling and go into a peaceful relationship, ask for normalization and have normal people-to-people contact, and that is India's best option. Today in the
Right.
evening, he was
Mhm.
talking about the fact that China's military parade not only displayed fifth generation air power, but also left out some of the more enduring aspects of its technological innovation that's not yet complete. And
Right.
China normally shares, when it shares its defense equipment,
Mhm.
it normally wouldn't give the very best of it to the countries to whom it sells. The only exception is Pakistan, that
Right.
China exactly, especially after the recent success, China
Mhm.
is transferring technology, military, planes, aircraft, and is
Mhm.
maintaining the highest level of quality that it maintains for itself, which
Right.
when it was being pointed out by this Indian defense expert,
Mhm.
he tended to emphasize these recent developments.
Right.
When the Indian Prime Minister returned from Beijing, many Indian experts were sort of depressed to say that, well, now the real affair is going on where President Putin, the Chinese president, Pakistan's Field Marshal, and the North
Mhm.
Korean strongman, they are now together, and they're really dealing with issues that really
Mhm.
matter in terms of national security.
Right.
So
Right.
it appears to me there was also another new development. There's a
Mhm.
speculation that, in spite of the fact that the American senior most trade negotiator, Mr. Peter Navarro, he
Mhm.
blasted India. He is a Harvard PhD holder and he's a very elderly man with a lot of
Right.
experience on India. And when
Right.
India was sort of critical of American intentions, Mr.
Mhm.
Navarro pointed out an extremely interesting thing.
Okay.
He mentioned about the fact that India's trade dealings with the United States
Mhm.
deserved this sort of approach by America because Indian wealth is only controlled by the Brahminic power, and the huge
Right.
majority of the Dalits still fall behind. And
Right.
this was a completely unexpected mention from a very powerful American
Mhm.
trade, Mr. Navarro.
Right.
When he said it, this was unexpected, and it has created tremendous impact in Indian intellectual circles. And they
Right.
seem to be very perturbed by the fact that what they said was that the US has now begun to weaponize India's most sensitive reality, which is
Right.
caste, you know.
Right.
So
Right. Right.
the
That's
Indian
that's.
reaction from
Mhm.
intellectuals is that they looked at it like it was like hitting below the belt that the US
Mhm.
is now trying to weaponize caste. My
Right.
question is, why not? You know,
Right.
we have the greatest suffering because of India's
Mhm.
continuous threat on Bangladesh after Professor
Mhm.
Yunus came to power. The
Right.
Indians have been saber rattling that
Mhm.
they would intervene. I wonder if you
Mhm.
know that right today there is this so-called seminar going on in Delhi. It started
Mhm.
today, a 3-day seminar,
Right.
which is happening in the United Services International. That is a
Okay.
body of Indian military people from all the three
Right.
services, normally
Mhm.
retired generals and air marshals. United
Okay.
Services International, which also exists in Britain. British officers
Mhm.
also have the same tax. Now, this
Right.
3 day so-called seminar, which is being held in New Delhi, has
Mhm.
received a lot of notorious propaganda
Mhm.
because the keynote paper is being presented by a serving major general. And
Okay.
among the 3 day participants, there are
Mhm.
as many as 8 or 9 serving senior in Indian military officers. And
Right.
the theme of this 3 day seminar is notorious. It
Okay.
starts the insecurity of Hindus in Bangladesh. That's the
Mhm.
most important thing. The
Right.
attack on Hindus in Bangladesh. This is a theme. The other thing
So
is that
do you recall the name of the Major General who proposed this or shared this?
it's one Nair, Major General Nair.
Okay.
Nair is the last name.
Okay.
If you just turn the Google search, or if you
Mm-hmm.
just turn on the Indian Delhi Indo-Bangladesh seminar, you will
Mm-hmm.
immediately get the pictures of all the participants, as many as
Okay.
16, 16 participants, and
Right.
8 of them
Right.
are serving major generals, brigadiers,
Right.
and lieutenant generals. And
Right.
also, there are Indian strategic experts like there is this Bengali lady, Radha Mukherjee.
Mm-hmm.
She's a
Right.
professor, and she's
Mm-hmm.
whole theme. And then there are such themes like threat to Indian security based
Right.
due to Bangladesh-Pakistan
Bangladesh, Pakistan.
relations,
Right.
the
Mm-hmm.
threat to Indian security. And
Mm-hmm.
then, there is also one theme that how should India deal? Yeah, should India go for any
Mm-hmm.
territorial grab of Bangladeshi
Mm-hmm.
strategic
Mm-hmm.
corners of the border? So
Mm-hmm.
this is what is going on in Delhi, and
Right.
this came up in Bangladesh during these next 3 days. A very important event is the elections that are going to take place at Dhaka University on
Right.
9th, the day of
Right.
election.
Right.
And there is tremendous participation, tremendous media coverage, and not only independent groups, but there are two or three student factions of the political parties like the
Okay.
BNP, the Jamaat-e
Okay.
Islami. And the interesting reality is that
Mm-hmm.
on the elections on 9th, the speculation is that Jamaat, student front called the Shibir, it will sweep
Mm-hmm.
the elections.
Okay.
And you will be surprised if you know the voter list. It's about 40,000 voters.
Oh my God.
And
Okay.
and more interesting is that more than half the voters are female students. You know,
Okay. Wow,
over
that's
20,000
interesting.
of the voters, and this has captured the minds of all the TV viewers. If you turn
Lovely.
on the news for the last
Yeah.
1 week and for the
Mm-hmm.
next few days, the most important TV coverage is the elections, the campaigning which is going on. And the
Right.
very fact that Jamaat was banned in the Dhaka University during the
Mm-hmm.
Hasina period. Not
Right.
a single Jamaat student or any religious student, someone with beard or wearing a Muslim cap. Very
Mm-hmm.
often, these Awami Leaguer students used to beat them up. It's almost
Right.
like saying that they were banned. And now
Right.
there is absolutely, it's like a tidal wave. There are
Right.
these younger generation who have had no voting rights for the last
Right.
16 years.
Mm-hmm.
They are
Right.
many of them are almost 30 years old, and they know
Okay.
that they have not been ever voted since the age of 18.
Right.
Now there is this sweeping majority that Jamaat is going to win, and especially female students. In Dhaka
Wow.
University, the most of the
So
female
there is a
students.
huge, huge difference. There's a huge difference. So, sir, getting back to the SEO, a very quick comment because you've
Yeah,
mentioned Field Marshal General Asim Munir, who was there, and you've spoken about that he was present on the military parade in China. Interestingly, just a couple of weeks back, he was present in the military parade of the US.
yes,
And
yes.
yeah, this is something. How do you see what's Pakistan playing against India?
Oh, this is very, very promising. It's completely a new chapter.
Right.
There is a qualitative shift in Sino-Pakistan relations after Pakistan's performance against India in the war. Right now, of course, we do see some media reports that China is a little sort of cautious about how much it should uh, um,
So,
uh, accept the Indian overtures, how
right.
reliable the
But
Indian.
sir, my question is the diplomacy of Pakistan between both the superpowers, who are somehow in some sort of they have points where they agree and they have points where they have a collision. So Pakistan's diplomacy with both the countries simultaneously, how do you see this? Where do you see Pakistan going? And is India feeling the heat right now?
Well, I don't think so. You see, the fact is that Pakistan has a huge experience of balancing the United States and China. It's
Right.
nothing new. They were very, I have studied even when we were a part of Pakistan during those times of President Ayub Khan. I still remember I was just a college student and how we used to look forward to see the US trying to sort of rely on Pakistan even when
Mm-hmm.
President Yahya was in power. It was a Bengali who was Pakistan's ambassador in China at that time, Ambassador
Right.
Khaja Muhammad Kaisar. He was from the
Right.
Nawab family of Dhaka, and he was known to be Pakistan's most seasoned diplomat, and that's why he
Right.
was posted in China. Now,
Mm-hmm.
the balancing US and China has been a very old experience, and even in
Right.
1970-71, when Henry Kissinger made his secret trip to Beijing, he flew
Mm-hmm.
from Islamabad, and it was
Yes.
President
Yes.
Yahya Khan who arranged the trip, and
Yes.
ultimately the United States opened up to China. Now, even
Right.
in recent times, you can see President Trump has treated the Field Marshal with a lot of respect and liking.
Mm-hmm.
He has openly praised Pakistan's military strategy, despite the
Mm-hmm.
fact that Chinese weapons were used. I've never
Mm-hmm.
seen an American president who so openly was appreciating the importance of Pakistan's strategic role in the near
Right.
future. I think the
Right.
Americans realized, and President Trump realized, that its future relationship with Afghanistan, the question of dealing with the Taliban's would make Pakistan very, very important in terms of providing the intelligence and
Right.
providing the type of influence Pakistan has
Right.
over Afghanistan,
Right.
even the use of its military option selectively
Mm-hmm.
in Afghanistan is very important, the way Americans perceive the future of the Taliban regime. And
Right.
it's been quite clear. Now, an interesting development is just today I found out there's this news that in a matter of about 3 months from now,
Mm-hmm.
the United States would sort of let India reconcile its relationship with the United States. But
Right. Right.
the America would not lower the tariff because President Trump's spell of anger still continues against India. But then
Right.
the U.S. has a certain part of the American administration has decided that
Mm-hmm.
India has been shifting to Europe. It has signed some $50 billion of loan agreements with Japan.
Right.
India has been shifting business to Europe and also have been improving relations with China. This has created concern in the United
Sir,
States.
a very quick question that India trying to rebuild connections with China, but in 2020 we saw there was a war between India and China on line of actual control. There was this Galwan issue, and China actually renamed multiple locations there, claiming them. So, do you really think there is a feasibility that India that's trying to get back to China will work? And if it does, it is going to be on Chinese terms, I assume.
Absolutely, you've got the nail on the head right away. Now, what the Americans are speculating is short term, that what happens if China and India really improve their relations. But as you just said, that it is not possible because for India to have any in-depth relations with China, whatever we see is superficial. The Chinese are
Right.
showing the overtures just to make the Indians distance themselves from the Americans. But as you
Hmm.
say, the Galwan Heights and even close to our borders, the
Yes.
Doklam Peninsula, which is only about 150 miles from our
Yes.
borders, which
Yes.
separates the Northeast from the rest of India. Doklam
Right.
question is very valid. And then in
Right.
Arunachal, which China considers southern as southern Tibet, The Chinese
Right.
claims are very valid, and it's quite
Right.
possible that the Indians will very soon get the real test of Chinese hardening of Chinese position. Whatever
Right.
happens in the realm of relations right now would be, as you say, based on China's terms. And I don't think
Right.
it's going to go so far because
Right.
because we rightly see that when the Chinese foreign minister came to Delhi, after the Delhi visit, he flew to Pakistan. He flew to
Yes.
Islamabad. But I would say
Right.
there is another factor, though, that Pakistan has to take into account. This is the of President Putin in Russia.
Right.
Russia is the only country, and President Putin is someone who tends to sort of emphasize on the importance of India.
Right.
And the Indians know very well that President Putin, since India continues to buy Russian oil, even in greater amounts, since India is very interested in Russian weapons, even. So,
Right.
President Indians believe that as long as the Indians continue to disregard American sanctions and go on buying Russian oil, which India
Right.
will do. President
Right.
Putin seems to be very impressed with Indian independent approach. And this is
Right.
one aspect that Pakistan has to be a little concerned. And this concern is also shared by us in Bangladesh, because
Mhm.
when we are trying to sort of create a new relationship with not only Pakistan, but more with the United States, as you know.
Right.
We are
Right.
worried about the Russian role.
Mhm.
Suppose if we deal with the Rohingya question, there
Right.
is American military presence now in Bangladesh, and it is
Right.
said that Pakistan is also involved in helping us resolve
Right.
the problem of Arakan army. The only
Right.
problem is if Myanmar takes a negative stand, it would do so only at Russian instigation. So from
Right.
that point of view, we are ourselves worried that the Russians, President Putin seems to emphasize on India and Myanmar
Right.
on the basis of Russian need for foreign exchange.
Right.
Russia
Right.
badly needs Indian, purchase of Russian oil
Right.
and the sale of armaments. That is
Right.
something right now, even the United States, the American position is that they seem to realize that despite the tariffs, India has not
Mhm.
stopped buying Russian oil. So
Right.
this is a matter which sort of would concern. But I think the situation could change if the Russians go ahead to stop the war in Ukraine and come to a ceasefire, which is quite
Mhm.
possible. Although the Russians are being right now, they are very aggressive. I guess
Right.
this is the part before you go for a
Mhm.
ceasefire. And I'm
Right.
certain that once the Russians impose a ceasefire on Ukraine, the Russian
Right.
policy, Russian relations with the United States will change for the better. And
Right.
President Putin would like to see that the American sanctions are withdrawn.
Right.
And that would take about maybe 2 or 3 months in the future. And by that
Mhm.
time, it's quite possible that the United States would sort of accommodate India in some way to set up the trading relationship. So
Right.
if that is the equation,
Mhm.
ultimately the importance of China Sino-Pakistani
Mhm.
core defense cooperation will again regain its strength. And I
Right.
think the important point is that, as I said, Bangladesh is going to move. We need to move very fast
Right.
in developing defense ties with Pakistan. There,
Right.
there is there is there is some talk in Bangladesh that very effective steps have been taken to acquire high quality
Right.
missiles from Pakistan. That they are on
Mhm.
the way. Indian media is already aghast with the fact that already defense cooperation is gaining momentum. There is
Right.
also the reality that Pakistan is going to have a very effective presence in terms of its intelligence machinery, which
Right.
would be extremely important and necessary, and
Okay.
there is this psychology of acceptance that
Right.
the more effectively Pakistan helps us with our bureaucracy, with
Right.
transition in the
Right.
military establishment,
Right.
the more effectively that help comes, the more likely that we will feel more secure
Lovely.
in this confrontation against India. So
Lovely.
these are
So,
positive things going on right now.
right.
Okay.
When we are talking to listeners, when we are talking to Professor Shahiduzzaman, we just do not get to know the time because there is a lot to learn. There is a lot to know. There is a lot of developments that Professor Saab shared with us, and there are a lot of developments, of course. And then, of course, the analysis. It's like a golden analysis because he's seen Pakistan and Bangladesh and India, this complete region, through decades and of course talking on the basis of his experience and exposure and then a huge time a long time that's spent with the university students of different groups age groups now so just to give you a roundup today, we've spoken about the SEO summit briefly, how Field Marshal Asim Munir was welcomed there, about the visit of our Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar to Bangladesh, and what future cooperation can be done regarding even the flights that we were talking about are going to be much cheaper, hopefully, and as cheap as 30,000 taka at 60,000 Pakistani rupees. Also, Bangladeshis can be given probably, most probably, 10 days visa free visit to Pakistan, which is an amazing thing. If it happens, I'll be the first one to go to Dhaka because I really am looking forward. And, there is a lot to talk about. Then we've spoken about multiple developments, how India is perturbed and very unhappy or unnerved because Pakistan and Bangladeshi ties are growing. Simultaneously, Professor Saab told us about the new, elections being held in Dhaka University with his understanding that most probably Jamaat is going to win the elections that is participating after Hasina's ouster. Previously, they were not allowed, they were not there, and women in particular. So that's a big, big news at the moment if we talk about Bangladesh. So we are going to have another sequel, maybe just a day or two gap. We are going to talk to Professor Saab again, and we will restart the conversation from here, where we are going to talk about more things in future, and let's see what the developments are. I'd request Professor Saab to give us time once a week at least so we can give you a roundup of every week how things are happening because, like he said, Bangladesh has to move very fast. I think we are living in a time where we all have to move with light speed, particularly knowing how things are happening and how they change within micro nanoseconds. So that was the roundup today. I'm really glad and honored that we've had Professor Shahiduzzaman again with us. Looking forward to have another chunk with him soon. But I really would want to give the Bangladeshi Gen Z in particular, thank you so much for being a part of this venture of ours, which is a total volunteer venture. And I'm really, really thankful, grateful to all of you. But I would love to continue with this bond. So please keep watching, keep sharing, keep subscribing, and keep telling us how we can improve and what else do you want to listen to on our show. Also, I would love to tell you that maybe in a couple of days, you'll be listening to a Pakistani singer who sang a lot of Bangladeshi numbers. So I hope you'll enjoy that. And I would love Professor Saab to come also because I want to see the other side of Professor Saab that is bubbly and chirpy with music and food and students and train travel and so many stories because he has a personality which is really versatile because I've spoken to him off the mic. So I know there is this dry geopolitics and then there is a very interesting Professor Saab that I would like to show you all. So thank you so much, Pak-Bangla Connect. Hope to speak to you again. Pakistan, Bangladesh, Dosti Zindabad. And I wish sincerely and honestly that Bangladesh gets to have the best for Bangladesh. And you guys, stand tall in the Committee of Nations with a very, very secure environment, where you can actually give excellent rebuttals to all the threats, be it that they're coming from a military of another country or any hegemonic designs.
And I have my best regards for your mom, and also
Thank you.
beautiful Islamabad with its beautiful breeze and its it's the beautiful hills, the Margala hills. Let them all blossom as spring approaches, and I hope people in Pakistan will really enjoy the beauty of their beautiful country. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And we are looking forward that many Bangladeshis come and join with us, and we can go and also visit them. And thank you so much once again for coming and helping us out with this volunteer venture. We are really obliged. That's how teachers are. That's how teachers should be. Thank you, sir. Take care and Allah Hafiz.